Why do we think midlife means slowing down when it can be the best time for a fresh start? Welcome to Second Act Simplified, the podcast for women in midlife ready to embrace every season, from life's turning points to the rhythms of the year. I'm Jaime, and each week you'll hear short, no fluff episodes with encouragement, practical ideas, and stories to help you create a second act that feels fresh, purposeful, and simplified. Why do we think midlife means slowing down when it can be the best time for a fresh start? If you're joining me in season, it's September. Fall in Ohio is coming pretty early. It's been a really fun time for me. I've joined in the past, let's say 2 months, I've joined a couple networking groups online and have met a ton of great women that are doing really fun things. Some are in midlife, some are not, but really getting out of their comfort zone, learning something new, starting their own businesses. It's probably been one of the most fun years I've had in a really long time. It's been so refreshing that I want other women to join in and do that. And there's really no better time than in midlife. If you have a family, that's when things are actually probably slowing down for you. And weeks or months may not specifically be slow. You may have kids going off to college, you may still be in the late teen years running them around, but over time, some of those activities really start to slow down, especially if you have kids that are starting to drive. You're not needed on demand as an Uber driver anymore. So that has opened up a lot of time for me. I want to encourage other women to pivot into new things. So this episode is about encouragement. It's not about quitting everything. And many of us really can't do that. You know, I have a job. I love my job. I love my coworkers. But if I wanted to quit today, that's not even really an opportunity that I can take. This is really about expanding your possibilities, whether it's just a hobby, something that you want to do on the side. And for some people, it really might be a career change. But for many of us, that's not an immediate option. So why is midlife the great time for new beginnings? And we just talked about our kids are more independent. But it's such a blessing. And you look back at the younger years, you might miss those. I definitely do. When my son was little, playing with Thomas, laying on the floor with his little trains, or watching cars on repeat, it felt like. It's also really nice to see him grow into his own person. And what a blessing that is to watch. But that's also brought me some extra time. So hobbies that I probably didn't have as much time to do, I'm doing now. Now, that's not to say you can't find time. And I want to segue real quick because it is really important. If there is something that you want to do, you probably do have some time to do it. Take a look at your phone usage, scroll time, TV time. There's probably some pockets of time that you could do something new, even if it's just as simple as like, I never read anymore. 5 to 10 minutes a day, you'll actually get through a book in a short amount of time. With our age, we probably have more confidence. I know that I do. I'm more confident now than I was definitely in my 20s, and more willing to take leaps that I wasn't willing to take before. But just having that confidence encouraged you to try new things. I want to share a little bit about my journey. In 2020, I really felt the pull to do something new. My husband did too. And we had very different experiences during the pandemic. I was working and was actually really busy. I was in distribution, and we were probably busier than I've ever been. On the other hand, my husband's a pilot. He was home and had a lot of spare time. So we did some side projects. He actually did some drone and regular photography on the side, which was nice because it gave him some extra income and projects to do, which he had a lot of fun doing. But in the background, I'm like, you know what? I really want to do something new and want to dive into things. And at that time, and maybe it's still really popular, but I was seeing a lot of videos about resin and pouring epoxy. I did that for about a year. In the back of my mind, I really would like to go back and do more. But it was so much fun. I even took a class to do it and made a really nice cutting board. It was wood. It was both wood and epoxy. I spent a lot of time doing it in my spare time. It was a lot of fun. I'm like, you know what? I do have time to do some other things. I took a new role, and so I got busier and really set the resin pouring aside. Some weekends, because my husband loves to take pictures, we got into birding and photography. So we spent last spring really, going out to the metro parks near Lake Erie and taking pictures of birds. It was so much fun. And I'm not the photographer in the family. My husband was pleasantly surprised. He gave me one of the cameras, and I took some with my phone too. I got some really great shots. I'm like, you know what? Once I get out there and do something, I typically can do it pretty well. I blogged in the early 2000s, probably about 2007 to 2010. It was a totally different atmosphere then. Blogging platforms, first of all, there weren't very many. They were very basic. At that point, there was really only Facebook and Twitter. The landscape has changed completely, but I was thinking, what, I could do that again. And in the early 2000s, I would have been considered a mommy blogger and really geared towards that demographic, but I'm in a totally different place now and was trying to think of ways to help other women. My sister also writes with me from time to time, and that's been fun because one, we can work together, but also we have some different perspectives. We're about 4.5 years apart. We are interested in different things that allowed us to write about some different topics. And in that last year, I've been able to see, okay, what resonates with people? What do they like? Well, seasonal topics for sure. Everybody's looking for holiday tips, holiday planning, doing something new on the holidays. Where should I go for the holidays? Fall activities, Halloween, those were all really popular. But people also spend a lot of time looking for, how do I simplify things? What about my routine? These are areas that I think I can really help. Now, how do I continue to reach people, help people? And so decided to start a podcast. And this podcast is more niche down than the blog is because this is really focused on midlife. I think there's benefits for other people to listen to this, especially younger women. But I'm really speaking to you, women who are in midlife. I'm not super excited to be on camera. That wasn't really my goal, but that's really a lot of the guidance that's out there right now is if you want a podcast, you should both record so that you can put it on YouTube and have your regular podcast as well. We are trying something new. All right. There was a study done in the early 2000s. It was about women taking a pivot really in midlife. They called it a midlife crisis. I wouldn't say I went through a midlife crisis. I don't even really like that word because there's such a negative connotation to it, and the stereotypes that go with that are not complimentary. But what I would say is, yes, I think there is a pivot. You realize that your kids are self-sufficient, possibly moving on. You have time to do other things. I think it's a great time. It also helps with dealing with all that change. So you have something new to focus on and you're not feeling that, oh my gosh, my kid doesn't need me as much, or they're not home as much, or they've gone off to school. You have something else to occupy your time. I think that 14% feels low. And granted, that study was done in the early 2000s. Today, I think the opportunities for women are endless. So many things you can do. I am floored by the number of women that I see starting businesses. And if you're like, well, how do you know women are starting businesses? Just look through podcasts, do some searching. Plenty of women are doing podcasts, starting their own businesses. I joined a group called We Meet Wednesdays. Tons of women that are on there launching their own businesses and networking. And it's really been fun. And there's other groups, and I'll continue to talk about that in the coming months too. Let's say you don't want to start your own business. Totally fine. I think just exploring hobbies is a great thing to do. Starting a side hustle. If you want your own business, you want a second income, multiple streams of income, starting a side hustle in your spare time, I'd say on an average week, I probably spend 5 to 10 hours. And I think 10's really on the high side. My guess is I'm probably less than 10 because I have some time in the evenings, and it just depends on what's going on the weekends. If we have busy weeks, the first half of August was jam-packed. I didn't do anything related for my business for 2 weeks because I had baby showers, birthdays, family coming into town. And if you know those things are happening, you plan around them. But I think starting a side hustle is completely doable. But let's say that's not the route you want to go and you just want to explore new hobbies. My husband and I picked up kayaking probably in the last 6 or 7 years. We don't get to do it a whole lot, but we do occasionally, and it's a summer activity since we live in Ohio. Not a lot of time to do that, but it's something that we really enjoy. I already talked about I was pouring resin. That's been fun, getting into photography. Whatever you're interested in, there's resources to do that. Volunteering, if you're very passionate about helping other people, helping the elderly, volunteering at an animal shelter, there's thousands and thousands of opportunities there if you're looking to help others. Networking, I mentioned I'm doing some online networking, but I also attended a couple Chamber of Commerce meetings and met some wonderful people there, both men and women. I don't know that I'm going to go back and do that right away because I have found that the online networking has been more valuable. Networking has been great. And some of that you have to get out of your comfort zone. You know, I'd say your adrenaline's up a little bit. You want to look and feel good for those types of events because you're making a first impression with other people. You have to be in the right mind frame for that. But I even in the Chamber of Commerce events, I met some incredible women who have started their own businesses and have already started to keep in touch with them. So definitely get out there. And you don't have to do business networking. I mean, whatever you're interested in. I think there's meet.com. I'll have to look that up. But that's another way. Whatever you're interested in, there's almost certainly a group. If you say, Jaime, I don't have a lot of money to spend on my side hustle, my hobbies. There are so many free resources now. You hardly have to spend money. So we've learned a lot of the things that we do on YouTube. It's one of my favorite resources. You do have to be careful about what you watch there. I got some really bad resin advice on YouTube. I got some really good resin advice, but there are free resources there. There's tons of photography advice on YouTube, blogging, YouTubing, podcasting, almost everything's on YouTube. Find somebody that you like and you resonate with and feel that they're being honest and not just telling you you're going to get rich in 24 hours. Your local libraries or community centers frequently have resources. I signed up for some classes, some writing classes actually through our local library because they have partnerships with other learning centers, things like that. And it was all online. And I was thrilled. It was like a college class, didn't have to pay for it. But there are so many great free resources online. So let's say you're looking to start something new, like a business, you will find people that have knowledge, and their entry point into their funnel is for you to take one of their free courses. I've learned a lot that way. Not all free courses are created equal. I have found that there's some that they talk to you for 20 minutes and the next 40 minutes is about selling their course. Not my favorite, but I've had others that are a week long. Yes, they do end up in the end talking to you about their course. And I've actually joined some courses that way. But do some research, see what interests you. And it's also a good way to learn. And you can see what do I like? Does that resonate with me? Then you can also see some tips, like especially if you're looking to do something new, you could see what are other people doing that I would do or I would like to do. What don't I want to do? It's kind of like working. Every boss has their good and bad points. There's things that you're like, oh, yep, like that trait. That's something I should emulate or something I should learn. And then there's others that you're like, yeah, no, don't want to do that. So why does trying something new matters? It's personal growth, first of all. It doesn't mean that growth equals money. If you feel fulfilled, if you're learning something new, your brain's actively engaged. Those are all great things. And fulfillment comes from curiosity, connecting, and creating. I feel like that's where I was really stagnant for a long time. I was just doing the day-to-day, raising kids. And while those are wonderful things, I don't think I spent a lot of time challenging my brain to learn something new. And now I have time to do that. And it's been so much fun. Really, it opens new doors. I've met women that I would have never met otherwise because I'm doing something new. And that was largely from the networking alone. If I hadn't done these things in the last year, there are at least 20 people I would not have met because there would have been no reason to overlap. And then again, we talked about if you have family that's moving on, especially your kids, it helps you deal with some of those changes because then your brain's thinking about other things, not just dwelling on, hey, I've got this really tough thing in front of me. I think it helps you leave a legacy. So my husband and son were very supportive of me doing the blog, doing the podcast. I think at first they're like, well, how long is this going to last? She's not going to do this very long. This is just something she's going to try for a little bit. But a year later, very different tune. I told my son recently, I was on a guest on my, it was my first guest appearance on a podcast. And he was like, seriously, you're really going to do that? And I'm like, yeah, why not? He's like, I don't know. I never thought you'd do something like that. I'm like, I didn't either. If you'd have asked me a year ago, would I be on somebody's podcast and be like, no, I don't even want anybody to look at me on TV. No, and it wasn't. I don't even think that episode will be on YouTube or anything, but that was not something I was interested in. Now, in order to reach people and to help other women, that's one of the avenues that I'm looking into. So one of the reflections I'd like you to think about this week is what's one new thing you'll try this season? It doesn't have to be big. It can be really minor. I've always wanted to do X. I've been interested in learning more about X. I have a friend that's doing something. I'm really shocked she's trying it, but now I'm really intrigued. Talk to her about it. How did you get started? Why did you decide to do this? The other thing I'd like for you to consider is my Second Act Simplified membership. I'll have links in the show notes. It's just a way to connect with others, making the most of midlife and working through what do I do next? What am I interested in? And it's a way to network and connect. I want to thank you for joining this journey with me. Would love for you to follow or subscribe, leave a review. For more details, they'll be in the show notes. Visit ourdailylifestyles.com and my Second Act Simplified membership, and links in the show notes. Until next time, your second season starts here.